Hello, my name is Jamie, and today I am doing a book review of Freedom Train by Dorothy Sterling. Please subscribe to this channel for more book reviews. Now, I read this book with my son. I had to look up the reading level, and it said that it could be anywhere from 4th to 7th grade. This was a more difficult book. I would put it at 6th grade. It's longer, not longer. It's 191 pages, but if you look at the words and the margins, there's a lot of words on these pages. And it talks about greater concepts than a 5th grader, I think, would understand. I went through this book with him, and we stopped quite a lot to talk about words that were not in his vocabulary, that he didn't know. But the book itself was very educational. It starts when Harriet Tubman is a little girl slave, and her duties as a little girl. And it talked about how her mistress didn't like her, and she ended up working in the fields with the men because of that, and how because of her working in the fields, she became strong. She was a very strong girl and a very strong woman. She had a lot of endurance and strength. She was stronger than a lot of men because of what she had been through. It talked about her head injury, how one of the slave owners banged her over the head with, I can't remember if it was a brick or a metal something, but it bashed in her skull and left her with sleeping spells that she would deal with for the rest of her life. But it is the story of Harriet Tubman, her life and her childhood, her adulthood, and what made her finally decide that she was going to run, and what made her decide that she was going to come back, how she came back for her family, how she came back for other slaves who heard about her and were waiting for her when she did come back. She began to be known as Moses because she would come and take the slaves and bring them to the promised land. People knew who she was. The slave owners knew who she was and wanted to put out rewards for her arrest. The slaves knew who she was, and they were waiting for her to come. And it was just very interesting. It talked about where she took the slaves when she freed them. They had to go all the way up to Canada, which I didn't know. I thought they just went to the north, but they were able to do that for a while. But then a law was passed where slave owners could go up into the north to get their slaves back. And I didn't know that had happened. And once that law was passed, Harriet had to take all these slaves from the north up into Canada, outside of the U.S., just to keep them safe. And she taught a lot of the slaves to read and to work, and they had their own little, city or village up there where they worked to take care of themselves. And that's where she kept her parents when she finally got her parents out of slavery. And she worked in hospitals, and she worked with generals in the army, and she just has an incredible story. And she never stopped. She just kept working towards freedom for her people. And it's very inspiring, and I was glad to go through it. There's a lot of stuff in here that I didn't know, that I didn't remember from when I learned about it. So being able to go through it with my son and talk about it with him was very nice. It was very educational for us both. And I liked that I didn't have to sit there and tell him that slavery was wrong. He read this, and just by reading the story, he was like, "Mom, why are they hitting her? Why do they think they can do that? Isn't that wrong?" I'm like, yes, it is wrong, but it wasn't something that I had to tell him. He just heard about it and was like, that doesn't sound like something that should have been done. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. It shouldn't have been. So highly recommend this book. It's very educational, even though it is a bit difficult. It is a good one to go through to show your kids through a novel what happened and how people went through so much to make it stop. We marked it up, if you can see. Lots of marking words that we were looking up and how to keep our place and stuff. Books like this that are true stories, I end up tearing up while my kids are reading them aloud, or when I read it to them. I just can't help it, because when you read stuff that actually happened and these amazing things that these people have done, it's just overwhelming, to be able to share that with your kids and to know that these people actually went through it. It's just an honor to be able to read about it. So, good one. Read it yourself, read it with your kids. That's all I got for you today. I hope you're doing well, and I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you in our next video. Goodbye.